Chuck Todd is NBC's political director and moderator of Meet the Press. Chuck, good morning. Good to see you. Let's start right there with Roger Stone and the president commuting Stone's sentence. He was set to head off to prison on 7 felonies. The president making these moves, we've seen him play with the judiciary system on other cases as well, looking at the Michael Flynn case, people who are close to him, people he believes have been loyal to him. The Attorney General, Bill Barr, as Kelly O'Donnell mentioned, has let it be known that he did not support this move by the president. Was this unilateral from President Trump? And if so, what is his goal here? Does he believe this helps him politically somehow?
Clearly, well, at least there are a lot of people that are making it clear to those of us that cover Washington that this was the president's decision on his own. It is putting the president on an island. You've seen the Attorney General say, sort of seek distance from this decision. You've seen the White House counsel seek distance from this decision. You've heard White House staffers anonymously talk to reporters attempting to seek distance from this decision. You know, look, this is a president that both values loyalty, rewards loyalty, and ultimately it is always, remember, his motivation to do anything is about himself. And the question I have is, did he do this to reward loyalty, or did you do this out of fear? Remember, one thing about Roger Stone, Willie, and you and I both know this from covering Roger Stone a long time, he doesn't fear the president. And that has always been something, that relationship. And so there's a part of this commutation in my head that I can't help but wonder, how much did the president do this out of fear of what Roger Stone still knows?
Yeah, and speaking of fear, the president is looking at his re-election prospects right now. He's looking at his approval rating down now in the low 30s on his handling of the coronavirus crisis. His campaign canceled the event yesterday, a rally that was supposed to be held in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. They said it was because of the weather, a beautiful day, I should point out, in Portsmouth, New Hampshire yesterday, perhaps worried about a repeat of Tulsa, where the crowd was thinner than they hoped it would be. And then wearing the mask last night, yesterday, during that visit to Walter Reed. Is he sending signals, albeit months late, that perhaps he is concerned now about the coronavirus crisis?
I wouldn't be ready to go that far here. I mean, if you look at sort of his rhetoric about schools and what needs to be done, he seems to continue to want to look past the current state that we're in. He continues to describe these things as embers. Look, Willie, I just look at how he spent his Friday. He went to Miami-Dade County, went to Doral. Miami-Dade County is the hotspot within the hotspot of the state of Florida. He didn't go to talk about the virus. He wanted to talk about Venezuelan politics as it impacts his presidential reelection. And then how did he end his day after traveling? And again, the hotspot of the hottest spot, he commuted Roger Stone's sentence. So, he seems to be someone that just either is too distracted to focus on the virus or just doesn't want to focus on it.
Yep, I should underline, I didn't say he was concerned about the coronavirus crisis. I thought maybe he's sending a signal that he is. But every other sign suggests he's not right now. Chuck, thanks so much. We will look for much more this morning on Meet the Press, where the topic will be the out-of-control coronavirus.